I'm really excited to kick us off today to be here. I wanted to share a little bit about a personal story of mine before we get started. That children with and families of children with that are deaf or hard of hearing have a special place in my heart. That is the reason why I work in special education and have been for many, many years. My younger sister was a student in New York City public schools who is completely deaf on her right ear and partially deaf on her left, and struggled a lot in the 90s at school. And so I always tell my mom I wish she had a me or Carson or anyone in our office guiding her through the process. And so this is deeply personal for me and my family. So I hope that today's info session is helpful to you all. And as Anika continues this work, that you all feel supported and heard in New York City Public Schools. So today we're going to unlock your knowledge on how to get support for your deaf or hard of hearing student. I am going to be very general tonight, share a lot of information, but as Carson said in the beginning, this is a meeting. We can chat at the end about all things supports and services. Next slide. So first things first, who do you go to? We have a group, we have different teams in special education within our New York City public school systems. And these different teams that I'm going to speak about have to do or have are responsible for evaluations, reevaluations, and conducting IEP meetings. For our K to 12 district schools or community schools or public schools, they're all known as those three things. Typically, in those buildings, they have what is called an IEP team. If you hear at your child's public school, people say, oh, the IEP team must know. That is the group of folks that know supports and services for your child and or can guide you through that process as well. The next team are for our students who attend charter, non-public, private, and religious schools. For students ages 5 to 21, they are assigned a Committee on Special Education or CSE based on the district that that school is located. And I say that because for the next group of team members or age group, for our 3 or 5 year olds, our preschoolers, they're assigned a Committee on Preschool Education, or CPSEs, based on where they live. So I always state that differentiation because parents get confused on who do they go to? Do I go to where I live, where my son or daughter goes to school? Where do I go? And so the differentiation is if your child is age 3 through 5, you go to the CPSE where your child lives or where you live, and anything outside of that, charter, private, you go to where that school is located. And so for our homeschool families, that's a little bit different as well. Our homeschool families, you go where you live and not obviously where a school is located because their school is at home. Next slide. So our general process for an IEP is an initial referral or request for a referral. Basically, that means when a parent says, hey, I see something, I want to look into it, or an evaluation, or I want the school to know that my son or daughter is hard of hearing, and that has to happen first before anything. Then there's an evaluation or evaluations that happen. Then after those evaluations are completed, there's an IEP meeting. After that, a range of services are done. And then every year after that, there's supposed to be an IEP meeting. And every 3 years, there's supposed to be a reevaluation meeting. So we'll get into that in the next few slides. Next slide. Thank you. Request for initial evaluation or reevaluation. So there's a lot of words on this page. All basically I want all caregivers, all parents, or guardians to know is if you would like your child to be evaluated, either it's the first time or let's say they had a services for a year, 2 years, and you're like, I don't see any progress, or Is there anything else out there? Anything that you want us to investigate or the IEP teams to investigate, you put in writing. You have to put it in writing. If you need assistance with that, you can ask a school member, a family friend, anyone to help you write your concerns so that we are aware, so we can know what to evaluate. So always include your child's full name, their birthday, your address, telephone number, the language that you prefer that is very, very important, especially if it's not English. You describe the concerns about your child's development or behavior, or what you're seeing, why you want your child to be evaluated, and any services they may be currently receiving or has received in the past, which is really important. So, what does that look like? If, let's say, they had speech when they were 3, but now they're 7 and they don't receive speech anymore, that's probably something you should write in that letter. Or they see an outside provider for audiology or anything related to that, write that in that letter as well. So, most important to take away, first step, you see something, say something in writing and give it to your IEP team if your child is in a public school, or a CPSC or CPS, CSC or CPSC if they're in another school that is not a public school. Next slide. So, what evaluations can we offer? So I kind of tweaked this slide specifically for you families that have children that are hard of hearing or deaf. So some of the assessments that can be given, I will go through in a second. Not only can they have assessments, observations can happen, throughout the process. So when you start or after they receive your request for an evaluation, you are to provide consent and say, yes, I agree, my child needs an evaluation. Once they get that permission to do so, they will do a psychoeducational, which basically means they're going to assess their academics, how they're doing in school, talk to their teachers probably. They're probably going to ask you for their medical physical, their last physical, a social history, which basically is giving an account of the history of your child, and other suspected assessments. Why do I say that? Because a lot of times when a family who has a child who is deaf or hard of hearing, that's most likely the only thing people are looking for. But there may be other things, right? Speech therapy, their motor skills, how they're holding their pencil, how they're walking. There might be other things that need an evaluation. And so those things are also things they can assess for all at the same time, not probably the same day, but over time during this process. And so specifically for hard of hearing and deaf children, they are assessments, one being an ASL fluency evaluation, where it measures if an interpreter would be of use to them, an audiological evaluation or angiogram, a functional listening assessment. So, for example, for my sister who's partially deaf, she had that. Classroom teacher viewpoints like the parks or the SIFTER. There's many, many teacher assessments as well, and classroom observation as assessments as well. And this one is most important, bilingual assessments. So if your child speaks a language other than English, they are to be assessed not only in English, but also in that language. So for example, someone like me, they would assess in English and in Spanish. And why do they do that? To see if there's a difference or where my strengths are, where is my weakness, and determine should I be educated in English only or both languages. And that's very important for families who may have students who are not only hard of hearing or deaf, but also speak another language other than English, so they're bilingual. Next slide. So after all those evaluations are done, what happens is parents are invited to an individualized education program or an IEP meeting after everything is completed. Nowadays, since our pandemic, a lot of IEP meetings are held still virtually, and they look sort of like this, just at a smaller scale. usually on Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever your child's school or IEP team uses. And if requested by you, this is very important, especially those of you who prefer in person or you may need that to communicate. You can request it in person now. And if you request it, they are to honor that. So if you request it in person, it can either take place at your child's school or the CPSC or CSC office that is assigned to your child. Now, what happens during that meeting? During that first initial meeting, I always tell parents the first IEP meeting and the 3 year, every 3 year, the 3 year mandated review that I mentioned earlier, those are probably going to be your longest IEP meetings. Why? Because what happens at that meeting is that everyone discusses the findings of the evaluations. How did your child do? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And then based on that, then they say, okay, based on their weaknesses or strengths, these are the services or classrooms we are recommending for your child. And then every year after that initial one, the first one, there's supposed to be a meeting called an annual review. And at that meeting, it basically, what all of the team is supposed to discuss are the supports and services or the classroom that my child is it working? Is it not working? And that's supposed to be a discussion. And one of my favorite thing, I would not be a central parent advocate if I didn't say this. You are the most important team member on at this IEP meeting. And so your voice needs to be heard. So if you feel that something's wrong, something's right, definitely feel confident in saying so. And so we'll get into how you can do that later on in the presentation. But
So,
it is
actually, can I add, this is Annika speaking. If I could
okay.
add, I just wanted to say that I've had experiences with IEP meetings and with my parents being involved. And I just wanted to let you know that it's important to know that being able to improve the services for me required my parents being involved. And everything that I received and having the best services really depended on, in my future, really depended on my parents being able to be there to advocate for my success. So it's very, very important to have parents involved and make sure that you do your best to make the services the best for your child.
I love that. Thank you so much for saying that. I am going to discuss at length that further. I really do appreciate you sharing your personal story, as I can also relate to that and also really point parents to how to empower them to voice, their concerns and or advocate for what their child needs. And so, one thing off this slide that I want to mention, if your child goes to a private school, such as a Catholic school or a yeshiva school, they will be assigned an IESP. The only difference is that S right in the middle, because we cannot mandate private schools, such as Catholic schools, to have certain classrooms. So the S is there because we supply services such as speech, sets, all kinds of services, but we don't mandate a classroom if the child goes to a Catholic school. So if you see that IESP, it's the same thing as IEP. It's just differentiating that this child goes to a private school. Next slide. So many of you your child may already have an IEP. And what I wanted to explain here is the three most common uh, school placement recommendations that teams put in an IEP. And if you see these three right at the top under the title, the first being New York City DOE non-specialized, District 1 to 32 school, that basically means they go to a public school or a charter school. But a lot of parents don't know that, so I wanted to highlight that. If you see that title, that means your child probably goes to a community school and or a public school or charter. The next category of school there is that we put on an IEP is New York City DOE specialized school. And what does that mean? Your child most likely goes to a District 75 school or also known as a D75 school. Those programs are located many different areas. Most are co-located with our community public schools. And kids who attend D75, that means all the students have an IEP. And if your child, I know some of you also have children that may be in agencies or inpatient at hospitals, you may also see this on their IEP. The last type of placement or recommendation, you might see a NICED, which basically stands for New York State Education Department Approved Non-Public School. These are usually children who attend private schools that are paid by New York City Public Schools. They either attend a day treatment program or live at school, which is also known as our residential programs as well. This is not to be confused with our students who their parents are paying for them to go to school. So these are our Catholic school students. Again, you will see on their IEP, or actually, let me correct myself, IESP, if they go to Catholic school. Um, in the IEP, you will see that it says parentally placed student or parentally placed school. That just means that they go to a Catholic school. So again, it will say IESP right at the cover page. It will not say IEP. Next slide. So services and supports. So we kind of have this staircase that I love, good graphic. Basically is the tiers of how we provide support. And on the bottom, you'll see general education, classroom, ICT, which means integrated co-teaching classroom. Those of you who don't know what an ICT classroom is, it's one full-time general education teacher and one special education teacher full-time in the classroom. That's one option. Your child can have a general education classroom or be placed in a general education classroom with a service called SETS, which stands for Special Education Teacher Support Service. This could look many different ways. Basically, it's a special education teacher that goes into the classroom or pulls out your student to provide individual lessons, whether in math or ELA. It looks very different depending on the program your student is in or school they're in. We also have something called special class. Most parents know this as our 12 to 1 classrooms or 12 to 1 to 1 classrooms or 15 to 1 classrooms. Those are all in community schools. So SETS, special class, general education, ICT can all be provided in a New York City public school. Anything above that you see that's listed here on the top is outside our public schools. So special class in a specialized school. So D75, as I mentioned earlier, has students all in IEPs. They may be housed or located within our public schools, but they are a specialized school because all the children there have IEPs. Above that, home and hospital instructions, I mentioned that earlier. That is a very restrictive environment, meaning that that student, for whatever reason, may be medically fragile and cannot be in a community school or among people, depending on their medical status or what the assessment revealed. And so they need instruction within a hospital or their home. And our non-public day or residential programs, as I mentioned earlier, residential schools means that the student lives there and also attends school. And
If I
all of
can
these,
add, sorry, not to interrupt,
yes,
I just wanted to jump in
mhm,
here to say, this is Annika speaking, saying that with deaf students, um, it's very important to provide that language support to make sure that we have accessibility all through every kind of site and every kind of classroom structure.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I was gonna go next with related services and also outside of. So what I just mentioned, the green to the yellow, are all types of placement or classrooms or schools that your students can be recommended for. And then this blue streak right here, very small, but it says related services. And people are like, what is that? That's basically anything that's not a classroom or a school that are services or support that we can integrate within the school or the classroom. So again, I kind of tweaked this a little bit. Thank you for speaking earlier with supports and services. One of the supports specific, or a few of the supports are specifically for our students who are deaf or hard of hearing is a teacher that serve deaf and hard of hearing students, an audiologist, sign language interpreter, a oral translator paraprofessional, and a hearing assistive technology or hat, or a lot of parents are like, what's a hat? If you are of years before 2025 and 2024, that is known as if your child had an FM unit or something in their ear and their teacher has a microphone. A hat was previously known as an FM unit. So a lot of parents are like, what's a hat? If your child was assessed and needs a FM unit, that is what's considered a hearing assistive technology. So these are the things that are available, not the only things that are available, but specifically for children who are deaf of hard of hearing. I want to make sure that you all know that these, in addition to all the other amazing services we have, such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, this is an addition to all of those things that is available for your student. Next slide. The next two slides are specifically for children who are recommended for hearing education services. And so, what is that? People are like, hear that, and they're like, what is that? Basically, this service is works alongside an audiologist, and so those two people are specifically assigned for your student to help them access what is being taught to them. So what does that look like? A student who's recommended for hearing services audiologist, they work together to make sure A, that hat is working, right? That the teacher and the student know how to use it, know how to charge it, know throughout the day how to navigate the building or their classrooms with it, and also make sure that is being used properly. So what happens a lot of times, our kiddos have their hats or devices, and they may run out to recess and leave it on the floor. And nobody knows what that is, right? And so this hearing education service and audiologist make sure that everyone knows who this device is assigned to, what the student needs, and make sure that whatever is being taught to them, that they are receiving it in whatever modality or mode that they communicate with. And so our deaf and hard of hearing education services, that is one of the main services that most of our kiddos that are hard of hearing receive in our public schools. So this is our website where you can find out all about them and resources. Next slide specifically breaks down who's who in each borough. So you can screenshot this. I can leave it on the screen. Brooklyn, Staten Island, Bronx, Queens, Manhattan. These are your go-to people for hearing education services. And thank you, Carson, for putting it in the chat. You're amazing. These people are dedicated for our students that receive hearing education services. Next slide. So the right to be informed, and thank you, Amy, for shouting this out earlier. This is probably my favorite part of this entire presentation. Um, Parents or caregivers or family members, you must be notified in your preferred language or mode of communication of what your rights are in the decision making process. Also known as, I love to tell parents, your yes is your yes and your no is your no. When you say yes, we will run with the yes and give all your student what they need. Your no, if you say, you know what, I don't want them to have speech this year or at all, we must honor that. And so I want to make sure that you're empowered, that your voice is heard. Your yes is your yes and your no is your no. Your parents, you also have the right for translation or interpretation when needed. Parents may speak at IEP meetings, especially those of you who use an interpreter or ASL. You are to notify that team, or they should already know if they've communicated with you that you may need that at a meeting. And they should know that and supply that to you at no cost to you at all. Those who speak another language, documents that are given at the meeting, the IEP, assessments, notices, all of that at your request, you have to request it, should be translated in your preferred language. There are times where we must ask for consent. Again, consent is voluntary. Your yes is your yes, your no is your no. So we want to make sure that whatever is presented, your yes is like, I fully understand, I know what's happening. And don't be ashamed to ask questions um, clarifying, right? If you have a question about what is speech therapy, I don't know what that is. Don't be afraid to ask. Ask before you sign anything. You also, again, have the right to withdraw also. If you feel that that service no longer serves your student, you can say, hey, I want to withdraw, and we're supposed to honor that. Next slide. The right to participate. Parents have the right to participate again and share your point of view. You may also bring anyone you wish that can speak to your child's strengths and weaknesses. I always say if you are raising your child with other people, aunts, uncles, cousins, and they can be with you to speak to what they need, bring them with you. You have that right to do so. You have the right to have meetings scheduled at the time that works for you. So if we have a date and a time that does not work for you for whatever reason, you have an appointment, you have to work, you have the right to ask them to reschedule on a day and time that works for you. Most importantly, for you all that may be hard of hearing or deaf yourself, you have the right for an interpreter to ask for the Office of Sign Language to be present at your meeting. I will also note, make sure that you request this once you get the notice that there's a meeting scheduled, because it's really difficult, and correct me if I'm wrong, ASL interpreters. Let's say, hey, today's the meeting, I need it in 5 minutes. It's very difficult to get our people there that quickly. And so, if that is a service that you may need and you get that notice, you can contact this office or ask the school to do it for you. Hey, I need an interpreter for sign language. Can I please have this person at my meeting? And we're
Anika's saying I'd like to add to that
oh,
also.
go ahead. Yep.
It's really important to have interpreters there. It's really important for everybody to know about that as well. They usually say a minimum of 3 days before, but it's
Mm-hmm.
really important as far in advance as you can to get an interpreter there. It would be just to make sure that the meeting doesn't need to be rescheduled, just to make sure that everybody is aware and everybody has access to all the information in the room. It's important to request those interpreters as early as possible.
Yes, thank you so much, Nika. You are right on the money, as they say. It is definitely super important to make sure as soon as you know you need this interpreter, make sure you let them know that you need this this service at that time. Also, students are encouraged to attend IEP meetings. A lot of parents get taken aback by this. If you feel your child can speak for themselves and really self-advocate for themselves and what they need in the classroom, they are more than welcome to join with your permission. Once they're 12 and older, we can ask them as New York City Public Schools for them to join. Again, if you don't feel comfortable, you can also say, I don't think my student should be here, and that's okay too. But it is open. If your student wants to come and you want them to be there to advocate for themselves, they can come as well. And most importantly, the next part I'm going to mention, and then I'll kick it off to Anika, is parents have the right to have a parent member attend the meeting. And a lot of parents are like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And I'm going to tell you what that is in the next slide. So IEP parent members are parents who help other families. They use their own experience and knowledge to help support families. So what does that look like? In your notice or IEP notice, it says that if you would like this person, so another parent that may be similar to you, to be in attendance to support you, because maybe you feel not as confident to talk at your child's IEP meeting, which is okay, you can request an IEP parent member to join you at this meeting. We ask at least 3 days before or 72 hours before the meeting that you let your child's school know or the CSC or CPSC know that you want this person at your meeting so that they can connect you with an IEP parent member. Now, I'm really excited for this next part because in the last year, we've been really trying to make sure that we have enough parent members to join all our families in New York City Public Schools. So I'm really excited because you all are unique. You all can support each other deaf and hard of hearing parents, such as yourself. So if you would like to be an IEP parent member, you can. You can visit includenyc.org. They are our FACE Center from New York City, New York State, education department that trains our parent member. Yes, Carmen. Sorry, I just saw Carmen put in the chat. Hi, Carmen. Carmen is one of our amazing IEP parent members.
Yes.
She's
Hi,
amazing.
everybody. Yes.
Hi, hi. She's amazing. If you need to know all things parent members, she can let you know. And Include NYC is our partners that train. And then we connect our families after folks are trained and processed. So IEP parent members, they're family members just like you, going through the same things as you, and can really support you at IEP meetings. Next slide. So last thing, sorry, Nick, I thought that was my last slide. My last slide, for real, is our NICSA account, which is also known as our New York City Schools account. This feature is being tweaked and strengthened as we go through the process of really making sure that families, we're transparent with families. And so if you have a NICSA account, you should see a button. I know it's a little bit light on the screen. You should see a button with a hand that says IEP on it. That button is super important nowadays. When you press that button, you will see when your next IEP meeting is, your annual or your next triannual or your 3-year evaluation. Who is your child's speech teacher? Who's your child's teacher? When was the last time they saw your child? And so this is something we are still working through. So some of you are looking at this like, I don't have a button. We're still working through that, but we really want to provide transparency to our families and make sure that you all know who is servicing your students. And so this is a button if you have a NICSA account that is on, should be on your dashboard. You click it and you see all the things that your child needs. Um, yes, whoever asked that question about the IEP document, yes, some folks have access to it now, some do not. We are working on that. Um, if you do not have a NICSA account, make sure you connect with your parent coordinator at your school to make sure that they link you to the access code that you need to create it. So I am really excited for Anika to talk. I'm going to stop talking. I'll probably answer some questions in the chat. Anika, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anika Hack. I grew up in New York City public schools. I have a really huge heart for the deaf and hard of hearing community. I love being involved in this workshop. I really wanted other parents to also know all the information they can. I'm really excited to be here. My role is a family engagement consultant. So I work for the special ed office for the past year, and I'm really happy to be involved in this position. You can go ahead with the next slide. So special education guides, these will help you understand what special education means. It will also give you a lot of important vocabulary like we talked about before, CSE, what preschool looks like, what CPSE looks like. And so it's really, really helpful. A lot of these guides will guide you to what the next step will be for your family, and would really help navigate you through the entire process from preschool to elementary school to middle school all the way through. There is a PDF here that you can use the QR code and you can download the PDF file. All of these things, it's available in many different languages as well. And online you can see the special education guide. And again, it's really important for you to kind of understand the process of what your child will go through before they actually go through it. So this is special education to help children entering kindergarten. This shows you the next steps and what to do. I really encourage you to read through it. It's really important to make sure you figure out where your child is in the process. There are different materials depending upon the age. So again, it will help you through that process to understand what steps will be next depending upon your children. That one talks about when they go into, oops, sorry. You can go to the next slide, that's okay. Here, this document will help you figure out transitions, to help figure out next steps. if it's independent learning, transportation, vocational work, things of that nature that will help students prepare for adult life. It will also support your child's future. And again, this is only for students with IEPs and their families as they transition from school to adulthood. Next slide, please. So I would love for all of you, all parents, to come join us for this event. This is from the DHHES department. How we're having a field day. This is a great opportunity for your students to make friends with other deaf and hard of hearing students. It's a great opportunity if you can come and join. Parents are welcome as well. It's not just for the children. You can meet other parents in similar situations as you. And again, it's a really wonderful event. Next slide, please. This is another field day, same as I mentioned earlier, but this one it will be happening in Queens. Again, this is great for children to meet other deaf and hard of hearing kids in the area, as well as parents to meet other parents with deaf and hard of hearing students. It's great to socialize, have a good time, learn about the different programs, come and support each other. It's a wonderful event. I will actually be here at the Queens Field Day, so I would love to meet all of you in person. So there's a question. It could be for any age range. I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe it's from kindergarten all the way up into high school. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Johanna. But I believe it is, as long as your child is deaf and hard of hearing, you are welcome to join any of the field days. There is no age limit.